Good morning, everybody. My name is Corey Rosen, and you're listening to the Story Podcast. And today I have an awesome guest, Mr. Glenn Hollenbach.
Hi, Corey.
Hi, man. Glenn Hollenbach, sorry, grew up in the suburbs of Reading, coming from a culturally rich and musically professional family. His own passion for music came after he was encouraged to pick up the guitar by his father, a notable and decorated trumpet player. His newfound fascination with music led him to becoming a well versed in many styles of playing as he progressed. Since then, Glenn has become an award-winning go-to guitarist in the Reading and Lancaster area for live bands and as a recording musician. Glenn, how you doing today?
I'm doing well, man. I'm excited to be here. I know we've been talking about this for a little while. I'm
Yeah,
glad we were able to make it happen.
yeah, me too, man. Because you got a lot of stuff going on.
Yeah, I've got too much stuff going on. I'm trying to cut back on the stuff, but you got to put yourself out there as much as you can to get to a point where you feel comfortable scaling back and prioritizing things that you really want to do, I think.
No, I know exactly what that means because when I started this podcast, I don't know if you realized, but I was having podcasts every single day almost.
Really?
Yeah,
Oh my
yeah.
gosh.
I got 100 episodes out within like 3 or 4 months.
Whoa. Jeez, man. Well, then you totally get
Yeah, I totally
it.
get it. Now I'm like scaling back, and this week was a bit much. I almost have one every single day, and I was like, wait a minute, I can't do this again. I'm burned out.
Well, yeah, that's the thing. It's the burnout, isn't it? Because you do have when you're really getting into something, and by something I mean like, getting into music or podcasting, not like a particular project within that. You underestimate how much time that takes and how much energy it takes, even aside from when you're actually doing it.
Right.
You're going through it and you're pushing through and you're saying yes to everything and you're trying to do as much as you can because you really care about it. But then it gets to the point where you actually don't have the energy to contribute to it in a meaningful way.
Hmm.
I think that's really what burnout is.
Absolutely.
Yeah, you gotta be careful.
Yeah, especially as an introvert, I'm not talking to people isn't my forte.
And here you are hosting a podcast.
Here I am. Someone has to do it, and I said I had to do it.
Yeah, you're right. Well, I'm glad you did.
Thank you. I'm really happy with what I got. And so, speaking about your story, in the beginning of that, your father encouraged you to pick up the guitar. What was that like for you?
So, music was, I know a lot of musicians say this, music was always in the house. It's true, it was. Um, Given the fact that my dad was not only a professional trumpet player for his whole life and still is, but a music teacher also. So he, there was always music playing and he was always teaching trumpet in the house, like private lessons and always going to gigs. But he never really pressured me to be involved with music ever, like ever. I can't remember my dad ever, really sitting me down and trying to force me to be a musician. There were some moments when I was young that I thought it would be fun to try to play drums, for example, and I did that for a little while, and it didn't really work out. I have some serious problems with attention, and then, and so that didn't really work out. Meanwhile, I'm getting into other things, like as a young kid, playing video games and professional wrestling or whatever young kids get into. And one day, my dad just asked me if I would let one of his students teach me how to play guitar. I guess my dad had noticed that I started to get some kind of interest in music, but nothing serious. Like I don't remember ever a time saying, "Dad, I want to learn guitar." But he approached me and said, "Hey, one of my students plays guitar. Would you have any interest in learning how to play it?" I just happened to say yes. And the rest is, I guess, history or whatever better way to
Right,
put it.
right.
I just ended up being very good at it. And then from there, I actually fell in love with music. Like a lot of people love music and like I should play an instrument. It was kind of the other way around for me.
Interesting.
Yeah, like I just falling in love with guitar is what made me fall in love with music as a casual listener separately from playing. Yeah.
Sweet. So, what did you do with that guitar lessons?
So I started out. My first memories in regards to guitar lessons are learning Back in Black, AC/DC,
Of course,
and like then Crazy Train, and all the
all the
hits, all the
standards.
hits,
Yep.
all the big ones. And then it got to the point where my teacher, who was probably, I mean, he's a teenager at the time, and he said, "I don't really have any more to teach you." So I went to his teacher, who was
Mm.
like a hardcore jazz guy named Carl Zeppelin. If you're listening, you might know Carl.
What
Um,
what a name,
yeah,
Carl Zeppelin.
Carl Zeppelin for a guitar player. Yeah, he's a heavy, heavy jazz guy, incredible guitar player, really knowledgeable, and taught me a lot about the foundation of music, the concepts that it's built off of, how to understand communicating with other musicians with your instrument, because there's a lot of guitar that doesn't apply to a lot of other instruments that you play with in the jazz world. it's primarily a rhythm instrument.
Mhm.
So learning how to communicate with other musicians, and giving me the tools to apply myself in many different musical situations. Unfortunately, I didn't really care about playing jazz guitar though. So it got to the point where it kind of wasn't working out between the two of us. I mean, not that we weren't getting along or anything, but he has his way of looking at guitar. I had my way of looking at guitar, especially when I was young and thought I knew everything. And we kind of agreed to call it quits. And then I just kind of went and made my own way. And with the tools that he did give me, which were invaluable, I ended up doing what I do with rock and funk and R&B and some jazz and country and whatever else. So that's how guitar lessons went for me. I haven't had a guitar lesson in a really long time, but I am thinking about getting back into it.
Well, yeah, it's always good to go back to basics sometimes.
Yeah, and there's a lot of really great world-class guitar players that you can get in touch with on Instagram and that you can pay them for lessons. Like one lesson with one of my favorite working guitar players would be worth a lot. So it has been something I've been thinking of. And if you're out there thinking about taking music lessons, or if you're an experienced musician and you need to reevaluate where you're at with your instrument to break out of a rut, I would probably recommend getting a lesson with some guy that you really respect and see where that takes you.
Absolutely. I know for me as a piano player, I went the same way as you,
Yeah.
as I had a few lessons, I was like, I can't be bothered to do this." And now I'm paying for it 'cause I didn't learn my scales.
Yeah. Oh
So
yeah.
I can't so whenever anyone looks at me and says, "Go!" and I'm like, "Oh."
Yeah. Yeah, you need to have a certain knowledge of scales and chords, and that's kind of what I meant by what Carl taught me, to get around in any musical situation, and if someone calls out for you to play, to be able to be in that moment without thinking too much.
Mhm.
There's a lot of legwork to get to that point, but when you are at that point, it's a pretty liberating feeling
That's
knowing that,
great.
yeah, it is, knowing that you can walk in a room and play with a country band or a funk band or a rock band, which luckily I'm able to do because of the things that he taught me. So
That
get back to your scales, man.
Yeah, well, I know, and that also comes to knowing the styles too,
Oh
because
yeah, sure.
the way you play country is not the way you play funk,
Yeah,
right?
absolutely. Yeah, no, that's 100% true, and I think that there's also the dimension of me being able to execute those styles to a degree. Like, of course, there are some styles I'm better at than others. It mainly comes from the fact that I'm a fan of all of those
That's
music
fair.
kinds of music too. Like as you get older and you go through your rock phase and you go through your rap phase, you go through your funk phase. I've never really gone through a country phase, but like I certainly appreciate the guitar playing within it. So like I don't have a bad time listening to it. But being able to appreciate a lot of kinds of music as a listener can really inform how you approach your instrument.
Absolutely,
Because
yeah.
like you said, those different techniques that it takes to play them and the different approaches and the different roles that it has in different kinds of bands. Like an electric guitar, for example, doesn't have the same role in a jazz band that it typically does in a rock band,
Mhm.
obviously. But it's something that a lot of people don't think of when they're in those scenarios playing.
Right.
Yeah. A lot of the mental game when it comes to being versatile on the instrument.
Oh, absolutely. It's not just, your physical ability, but it's also your mental ability and mental fortitude to keep up with other people and
Mm.
then, realize what's going on in the room, where the audience is at, where you're at, where
Oh
the
yeah.
band is at.
Oh yeah. Yeah. I always say to people, it's something that me and my bandmates in multiple bands, it's kind of an open running conversation, is the idea of getting from your own headspace out into the collective headspace.
Mhm.
And I think that when people talk about chemistry between band members, that's really what it is that how quick from when you start playing with these people, how quick can you all be on the same page and have eyes up looking at each other rather than focusing on what you're doing? Now,
Mhm.
there are some great bands and very good bands that I'm in that it's taken a longer period of time for us to all get out of our individual headspaces and into the collective one so that we can have some true chemistry. And depending on what band you're playing in, you do have to kind of be in your own headspace, make sure that you know what's going on under your fingers or within your hands, depending on what instrument you're playing, and be comfortable enough with the music that you're playing. And then you can kind of get your eyes up.
And one of the ways I would highly suggest to do this if you wanna look to try to do so is to, go out to open mics and jam with
That's
people.
a really good point. Yeah. That's how you I mean, of course, that's how you meet a lot of good musicians, but that's also how you get better at that thing we were talking about earlier, being able to just step into a larger variety of situations and feel comfortable without thinking about it too much.
Yeah, I do that all the time. I don't play in any bands, and people always ask, "What band are you part of?" I don't whoever lets me. That's that's the
Yeah.
question. That's the answer.
Corey's for hire, everybody.
Well, yeah, honestly, if you want me in a band, let me
Yep.
know.
You heard it here.
I'll do it. But yeah, the way that I play is I go out to open mics and people say, If they want a piano player, I'm there.
Yeah,
And they just got to give me the chord structure, and I'm good to go.
that's good. You're doing
And
your job then.
yeah, and that's about it. It's helped me improve a lot in my improvising because
Yeah.
I've been forced to work on my scales because people do look at you and say go, and
Yeah.
I'm like, I have to go or else
Yeah.
there's nothing gonna happen here.
You got to do something. Yeah, and like there are people who, like, speaking of my dad can read anything, like sight read any music. He's like,
That's
that's like his gift. And of course that does kind of fall in line with his instrument.
of course.
There's not as much fast and loose improv with trumpet in most trumpet situations than there is with guitar. In
Mhm.
most situations a guitar finds itself in. So, but me, I'm kind of the opposite end of my dad. I can't really read notation, but improvising has always been my strong suit. Now
Mhm.
you could quantify that to, again, the situations that your instrument typically finds itself in and the kinds of music that it finds itself in and the kind of music you listen to learn about that instrument. But also, I think a part of it is just whatever your strong suit is as an individual on the instrument as well. Like there have been trumpet players who are just godly improvisers,
Oh yeah.
but typically the guitar and the piano and an instrument that are visual are the real good improvisational instruments because you can see what's going on. Whereas on the trumpet, you have 12 notes and 12 octaves and what, 3 valves?
You gotta figure it all out.
You're not seeing what's happening. You have to conceptualize it, make sure that your embouchure is in the right position. So there's that physical dimension of it too. And then kind of just go for it and hope you have enough breath, I
You have to
guess.
say they have to breathe.
And the breathing. And the breathing. Yeah.
We don't have to breathe to play. Well, we do, but we don't have to like control our breath.
You have to breathe while you're playing, but you don't necessarily have to breathe to play in every moment.
Exactly.
You can hold your breath and play guitar. You can't hold your breath and play trumpet. Right?
Right.
Yeah.
So back to your guitar lessons and moving past that.
Yeah.
When did you start finding yourselves in playing for bands?
So my first band was when I was 16. I think I was still taking lessons at that point, but I was kind of getting to that juncture with my teacher where we kind of weren't seeing eye to eye on how I should progress. And it was the classic me and my best friends getting together in my buddy's basement and writing songs together and jamming. And we did that almost every day because we all lived in the same neighborhood, which was really great. I'm still like best friends with all those guys to this day. Those are like my absolute best friends. But that's how that started. You start to get to that age 14, 15, 16 where not only are you discovering yourself on the instrument and getting competent enough to feel like you can join a band, but so are the people around you. You meet up with them to have a jam and you either have the chemistry that we were talking about or you don't. And in that case we did. And we played a bunch of shows, and just as every band in high school does, eventually it petered out. But that's really when I think of my first band, it's that one. And then from there it was just meeting other people, finding chemistry with them, jamming with them, going to open mics, things like that, and seeing what connections made the most sense, following them through and seeing where they went. I also did jazz band in high school, which I was very staunchly against. I really didn't want to do jazz band. My dad, that was the one thing my dad really did try to push me to do was jazz band. And eventually I did do it. I think I joined in my junior year and I did junior and senior year. That ended up being probably the most important formative music moment in my life because not only did I have a great music teacher, Wilson High School, Dave Cooper, great guy, who really gave me a chance when he didn't have to. Like they already had a guitar player. He was a great guy to learn from. And it was a situation where I had to put these tools that I had learned in lessons into use in a scenario that I wasn't entirely comfortable with. And that's whether it's your work, whether it's like your relationship with other people or in music, that's the situation where I find that I learn the most is, you have, this and that about what you're getting into, but, being in the scenario, making the mistakes, trying to connect with people, not always working, and then sometimes working and having it be the best thing ever. That's really where I learned the most. So I did end up doing jazz band around the same time. I was also forming my own rock bands. And there was just that really prolific period of learning for me. And then everything just kind of rolled from there, I guess.
So the best way to learn is to make plenty of mistakes doing it.
Well, that's exactly what I mean. Like I ended up being a lot better at that style of music than I had realized leading up to it because of all of the mistakes you make in your lessons and practicing. And then in the band room, And that's where I really started to like earn awards for my guitar playing was at these jazz band
Oh wow.
competitions. And that was really important in building my confidence as a versatile musician. Because at that point, I didn't really see myself as a jazz guitar player, and I certainly don't see myself that way now. But
But you can
um,
do it.
yeah, like I can get by. I can read a chord chart. I know the expensive chords. If I see them on
Expensive
if I
chords.
see them on the page, I can play them. But maybe the most important thing, and I've tried to stress this to a lot of guitar players I talk to now, is in that jazz band environment, I really learned the importance of rhythm guitar playing and why
Mm.
it is more important than lead playing. When you're young and you're getting into guitar and you're falling in love with guitar, you're naturally drawn to styles of music that have a lot of very verbose guitar playing and intense guitar
You want to
playing.
shred.
Yeah, yeah. Like you're falling in love with guitar, so you want as much of it mainlined into your system as you can. And joining the jazz band was me learning that not only do I have a knack for rhythm guitar playing, but how important it is to a great band if you can execute it properly.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Yeah,
And the rhythm section of a band is really important. Of course, you have the drums,
yeah,
but guitar and drums match very well together if
yeah,
done correctly,
yeah, right. Yeah, especially in a jazz band.
especially in a jazz
Because there's
band.
not a lot of solos in a jazz band
There's not a
for
lot.
guitar. Now they gave me
Yeah.
some because I could play, but really the guitar in a jazz world comes from a very rhythmic standpoint. And it's almost it kind of plays a piano kind of role in the way
Mhm.
that's kind of stabbing at chords in a certain rhythmic pattern between the bass and the drums. And so I learned a lot from that. As far as how to restrain yourself, I guess, on
Oh yeah.
guitar.
Well, absolutely. With musicians, musicianship, it comes with being virtuosic and
Yeah,
then
hopefully.
limited as
Yeah.
well.
Mhm.
Being virtuosic also means knowing when to play, when not to play. It's often said that music it happens in between the rests or
Yeah,
in between the
absolutely.
notes.
Yeah. You can't be playing all the time because then there's no pocket.
And it gets boring.
It's boring. It's
It gets
and
ear.
when you're playing as a bass player or as a guitar player or as a piano player, the space that you, for example, leave for the snare drum,
Mm,
not playing on that beat can sometimes be the linchpin that makes the pocket and the feel of the rhythm section really work. Because if everybody is playing on every beat, that never really feels good for
it's
whatever
just a wall
reason.
of sound.
Yeah, it's just kind of the way music goes, I think,
Yeah.
is knowing when to leave space for the other instruments. That's in those scenarios when you think of songs that have great feel and great pocket, which is a term musicians use, you know that obviously.
Hmm.
I think that's really what it is the bass player resting on the snare beat, simple things like that. The guitar player poking in between where the bass is playing. That's pocket, really.
Or if there's ever a band stop and all the instruments cut out, and you're like,
Yeah.
everyone gets hype when that
Yeah.
happens.
Right. It's dynamics.
It's dynamics. It's the ebb and flow of music. It's a roller coaster.
Yeah, sure.
To make it all one thing is to not understand the fundamentals of music and rhythm as a human need, really.
Yeah, sure. That's actually a really good way to put it because the reason why, and since you've been playing a lot of open mics with a lot of musicians, um, the reason why all of these musicians you learn from are always preaching about dynamics is because there's also that ebb and flow and roller coaster of emotion within the human experience, as corny as that sounds.
Yeah,
Like
it's true.
I think that that's why people connect with music so much, aside from lyrics and stuff, which are just as powerful. But that's why people are able to hear an instrumental track like "Pick Up the Pieces" by Average White Band and not know how to play a lick of music and feel like they're connected to it because now that song's kind of an uplifted, joyous feeling kind of song, but people can invest in the dynamics of that song in that way, just like they can invest in the crazy dynamics of a song like Stairway to Heaven, which start all the way down
Mhm.
here, work its way all the way up here to this big crescendo. I think people go through that in their lives as with in regards to events and how they feel about things.
It's just a mini story,
Yeah,
and
right.
if humans love anything, we love stories.
Yeah, definitely. I would agree.
And
The story.
the story is there we go. Bring it full circle.
Yeah.
But it's also interesting because I just want to make this one side note, and then we can move on. I had a music therapist on
Oh
the
wow.
show,
Cool.
and Katie Damiano. I'm gonna mess up the name for the rest of my life, and she's gonna forgive me
She's
for it.
listening now.
She's always listening. Um, but apparently, music is the only thing that lights up all of our brain at once.
Really?
Yeah,
Wow, very cool.
and she was telling me about if you hear a clickety clack of heels on the way, you'll slowly fall in line to that
Yeah.
as a rhythm.
Yeah.
And it's incredible to me how she was using music to get kids with like disabilities to talk
Wow.
or stuff like that.
That's pretty cool.
Because in our minds, you sing "Twinkle Twinkle Little Star," and if you don't finish the last word, they'll finish it for you.
Yeah. Wow. Yeah, it is kind of interesting how, like, in all parts of the world, before certain groups of humans knew there were other groups of humans, they all still had this internal propensity and desire to
To make
craft these instruments
yeah.
and make music. It's just part of like the human DNA or something.
Yeah, it's almost like we have to.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely.
There's been entertainment as long as humans been even just art in
Yeah,
general. You got
yeah,
the caves
hmm
in France or whatever.
yeah. It's expression, I guess, of kind of the complexity of the
Expression of
human
self,
mind,
yeah.
which is what makes humans unique on planet Earth. You know,
Absolutely. Don't see any, dogs making paintings of themselves.
not yet,
Not
not
yet,
yet.
not yet.
We're living in the future. Who knows?
Who knows? So, when did you join a project that was long term for you?
I think there was a project that I had joined when I must have been 19, like right shortly after high school. I met a couple guys when I was working at Sam Ash and King of Prussia, that had this batch of songs and wanted to flesh it out with like a studio band. And actually, you've had Justin Fava on the podcast.
Yes.
That's the first band I was ever in with Justin. Actually,
Oh,
I had
nice.
known him previously from playing with each other's bands, but we were never in the same band. That's where we really got our connection. And that band was together for a while, made a record, pressed it to vinyl, did the whole nine. Unfortunately, it didn't work out. I learned a lot from that too, the not working out.
Right.
Almost like when you fall in love with someone and that doesn't work out, as corny as that sounds, like you kind of learn a lot about what you need from a relationship um, and what worked for you. So that was the first band that felt really serious to me, but it was also kind of my first band heartbreak too.
Mm.
And I feel like I learned more from that in that band than actually just being in the band. Um, that band was called Hillside. Uh, and after that, when that band fell to pieces, me and Justin still wanted to really play and enjoy each other's company. We were always able to be honest with each other and trust each other, which is important if you're going to play music together because it is kind of an intimate relationship. And we started a couple other projects after that. Me and Justin still play together to this day. But I would say that that's my longest running music relationship is with Justin. So
So
maybe that's the best answer.
yeah, so and you guys work with Stephanie Grace right now.
Yeah, we both play with Stephanie Grace. That's right.
Tell me how that works or
So
how that came about.
I think I'm sure you've had Steph on the show, right?
I've had Steph and Justin.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I don't know how much of this story either of them have told, but Stephanie, and I don't want to speak too much for her, but my understanding of the situation, just being close to her, is she was at a point where she knew she needed a little bit of change in her career and wanted to go with a new band that had the ability to go further with her in that journey than the one that she had. And she was going to shop for her bridal dress, went to Justin's mom's bridal dress shop and was kind of talking to her about the situation. She said, "Oh, you know my son Justin, don't you?" She was like, "Yeah, Justin Fava." And she said, "Oh, well, he plays music." So she gave him a call to come in and fill in for a guitar spot, which went well because Justin's still in the band, obviously. And
Yeah.
and shortly after that, one of Steph's other band members, who was kind of like her confidant in a lot of her musical journey, Josh Heller. Josh, if you're listening, great guitar player, nice guy. He was like, "Well, Steph, you should also replace me too. I think it's for the good of your
Mm,
career."
what a
And
great realization to have, by
yeah,
the
and
way.
Josh is like a grown man with kids and
Yeah.
stuff, like in a full-time job. Like he, has a life. And that's kind of why Steph needed to go with a new band. So like younger guys who can just go with her.
Go.
Right. And he said, if you're going to get someone young in Reading, you should, I wouldn't call anyone other than Glenn, not to brag. His words, not mine, allegedly. Okay. So
Allegedly.
yeah, apparently, allegedly he said that. I've never confirmed that with him personally. But so she called me, and at the time I was very busy with other bands, but I recognized this as a scenario that was good for me in two ways. One, because Steph has notoriety and has gone a long way in her career. and is a really nice person.
She's great.
Yes, that's great.
Check out her
And
music.
yeah, and check out Stephanie Grace
Yes,
on
please do.
on social media and
What
on
is
wherever
it?
she music.
Stephanie G Music?
Stephanie G Music on Instagram and just Stephanie Grace on Facebook, I think.
Yeah,
And if you search Stephanie Grace on whatever music
you'll
streaming
find
service,
it.
you'll find her, right? Uh, and so she called me and said, "Hey, do you want to join my band?" I did an audition. She just said, "Josh said you're good, so I'll take his word for it," which was probably a good choice on her part because Josh is trustworthy and I am good, I will say. But she called me and asked me to join the band. I said, I'm really busy, but I'm going to give it a shot because of the things that I just mentioned. And even more importantly than Steph being nice and Justin being in the band was that I've always felt like I really thrive in the sideman role,
Mm,
like being a gun for hire and being someone who can step into your band, easily assess the situation, what's needed from me, do that job, and then more so if needed, help you direct the musicality of your band, the arrangements, and things like that. So I took the gig. I'm still with her. We're doing a bunch of shows this year. You can check out her social media to see our dates. I think she just posted our dates for April and May, like yesterday. So you can see all of that. That's how the whole Stephanie Grace thing happened, and it's been great so far. And it's also been another project where I learned a lot about playing because it is kind of the pop country thing, which like
right.
even yes, I can, even though most of your intermediate guitar players can execute that kind of music, it actually takes a lot to make it feel good and right if you're not from that place, if you
No, I
don't
get it.
come from country music. So that was a big learning experience for me and has ended up being really a lot more fulfilling as a guitar player rather than just a gig that I thought would be cool and good for my career. Like it's
Mm.
actually become an enjoyable music experience. And after I was hired, Stephanie told me to just figure out who else is going to be in the rest of the band. So I did. And now I'm in this great project with a great singer songwriter and surrounded by my friends who play great. So it really has turned out to be awesome. Yeah.
That's awesome. And
Yeah.
you also were a part of this or are a part of this other band, the Quiet Campaign. Tell me about
Yeah.
that. I know
So,
Zach DeSantis is watching.
yeah, I'm sure he is. Hi, Zacho. So, the Quiet Campaign is an original kind of indie alternative rock band from Reading. A couple years ago, I think it was maybe July or August of 2019, um, he sent me a Facebook message, kind of a cold call because him and I weren't close or friends really, but I had known him very loosely from going into Penn Avenue Music where he was running that shop at that time. He messaged me on Facebook and said, "Hey, I've got this project. I kind of want to do something with it. I've got a large collection of songs. We just need a lead guitar player. And I've heard you play a couple times out live and I've heard that you're very good. So do you want to come over and here are a couple songs, learn them, do your thing with them, and we'll see how it goes." And that was a moment where the first time I ever played with those guys, I knew it was right. And there was that heads up chemistry and that kind everyone was out of their inner headspace and in the collective headspace pretty much from the downbeat.
Mm.
And it has remained to be that way to a deeper degree. Like that is really a band that's pretty close to me and that I really, really care about and makes a lot of great music. It has grown past just being Zach wanting to have a band to flesh out his tunes. It really has become a band. But that's how it started. We actually just finished recording an EP at the Kaleidoscope in Lancaster. I'm sure you're familiar.
Yes, I've had them on the show.
Oh, you have?
Yes, I
Oh my
have.
God, they're the best. Love them. So we cut it there over a weekend, all live in the room. Overdubs were just lead guitars and vocals, pretty much. We just got the masters, which you have, and we're just figuring out when we're going to put it out. But it should be very, 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 very soon.
And so this is a little bit of a pre scene.
Yeah, this would be technically the first time the public would have heard any of this.
So let's talk about a few of them. We have Lull. Tell me about that one.
Lull Lull is more of a recent song for the Quiet Campaign. I'd say it's maybe about half a year old, but it has quickly become a favorite amongst the people who attend our shows. It's kind of it's got a bit of a 90s rock feel combined with Tom Petty, which is kind of the way I describe this band to most people is if the guys in Tom Petty and the Heartbreakers grew up in the 90s, they would kind of sound like this band. And which is a match made in heaven for me because Tom Petty and the Heartbreakers are my favorite band, and I also grew up listening to 90s rock. So Lull is kind of that flavor. Zach's lyrics are kind of mysterious. So I don't know the reasoning behind every lyric in these songs, but the general gist is, well, I guess a long car ride conversation possibly becoming a little bit tedious, if I'm understanding correctly.
Oh, we'll have to have Zach on the show so he can explain it
You really, yeah,
himself.
you should
Yeah.
have Zach on the show. He's got plenty to talk about.
All right, so well, this is "Lull" by The Quiet Campaign.
In the winters we can go to Mexico, 'cause I don't wanna see the snow. And on the way down, when we're in the car and you're playing songs that I know, I'm waiting for a lull in the conversation. On a desert street the wind blows, the blistering sun, the faded yellow lines across the road from our house. Well, we don't have the porch lights to leave on to scare the rats away. Oh, scare the rats away, she says. I'm waiting for a lull in the conversation. I'm waiting for a lull in. I'm waiting for a lull in the conversation. In a month or two when you get bored, 'cause the sand and smoke got between your toes and in your eyes respectively, you're asking, can we go? Can we go? You're asking, can we go? But I'm waiting for a lull in the conversation. I'm waiting for a lull in. I'm waiting for a lull in the conversation.
And that was "Lull" by The Quiet Campaign. We have another one that I'd like to show out, and then we'll move on to the topics of being manager at Tone Tailors. because that's an exciting topic. So
Certainly.
tell me a little bit about Trust. You were talking about were all of these tracks they all got really good takes on both guitar, bass,
Yeah.
drums, and everything.
Yeah. So essentially so Zach, aside from being a great songwriter and guitar player and piano player and bass player, is also a very good producer. So we had the means to do a record on our own and have it sound pretty good. But we were coming back with a product that we just felt didn't really capture the essence of the band live in a room on a recording, which, a lot of bands feel that way. And that's why a lot of bands, it's also because we grew up listening to records that were recorded that way. I think that's a big part of it, But the Quiet Campaign is also just a great live band. So we really wanted to capture that feeling in at least getting the bass and the drum tracks getting recorded in the same room at the same time. So when we went to John and Ben at the Kaleidoscope, we said we'd like to do live takes, and we'll have all of us in the room just in hopes that we at least get a rhythm section take that feels good. And if we need to overdub all of the guitars, we'll do that because that's very common anyway.
Right.
So it was in the live room at the Kaleidoscope, which is awesome and just feels great to be there. We had Joel's drum kit mic'd up, Frank, I think a DI bass signal maybe, and then 2 mic'd up guitar amps in isolated rooms there, and just did the takes pretty quickly. We're well rehearsed. And we just ended up using those takes for all of the instruments for each song on the EP. So when you hear the rhythm tracks, when you're listening to the track, you're hearing a take that was the drums and the bass and the 2 guitars live in the room playing at the same time. And then all of the guitar solos and vocals were overdubs, which is common. So yeah, it's largely about 75% of the instruments, 80% of the instruments that you're hearing on the EP, maybe even more, were all recorded at the same time live while looking at each other.
That's really fun. That's really awesome.
Yeah. And it turned out the exact way that we hoped it would. And I'm super grateful that John and Ben over Kaleidoscope were receptive to that. It's not the most common way to record anymore because you do have to be very tight and very in tune for it to work. Luckily, as I've said earlier, I'm blessed to be surrounded by really great musicians. So we were able to do that within reason.
So let's take a listen to Trust and see if you can hear just how tight they all are.
Trust me, I wouldn't say this if it wasn't important. Maybe we're not as close to the end as we thought. These concrete and penitentiary dreams fool me again. I understand, oh I understand, but it's a little unnerving now. In the whiteout, I see everything clear now. Trust me, I wouldn't say this if it wasn't important. Sometimes we gotta read our lines with a little uncertainty. Fool me again, oh I understand, but I'm a little concerned about the white heat, somatosensory beams. Fool me again, oh I understand, but it's a little unnerving now. In the whiteout, I see everything clear now. If I die in my sleep tonight, cover me up in roses and wine. If I'm gone when you open your eyes, save the wine. 'Cause I'm on a bender now. I'm only out here 'cause I need to get some air. I'm on a bender now, and I'm only out here 'cause I need to get some air. I'm in a bad way now, and I'm only out here 'cause I need to get some air. I can't breathe in there. I'm in a bad way now, and I'm only out here 'cause I need to get some air. I can't breathe in there through the smoke and dusty stairs. 'Cause I'm only out here 'cause I need to get some air. I can't breathe in there through the smoke and dusty stairs. I'm only out here 'cause I need to get some air. I can't breathe in there through the smoke and dusty stairs. Oh, I'm only out here 'cause I need to get some air. I can't breathe in there through the smoke and dusty stairs. Oh, I'm in a bad way now, and I'm only out here 'cause I need to get some air. Oh, I can't breathe in there through the smoke and dusty stairs.
And that was Trust by The Quiet Campaign, and that's soon to be released very soon, right?
Very soon. Like I went bowling with Zach and Joel. Joel's the drummer of the Quiet Campaign the other night, and we talked about it for a while. We have a show coming up at Mike's Tavern, which is like our favorite place in the whole world, on April 1st. We talked about maybe releasing it then as a surprise, which if you're listening, it wouldn't be. But we really don't know yet. We really don't know yet.
What you should do is really hype it up and then say April Fool's.
Well, the thought was to maybe, so while we were bowling, we took a bunch of videos and pictures of us bowling. And we thought, wouldn't it be so funny to every day leading up to the album release, it's an EP, like post a picture of something that's nothing to do with music, so that on the day that you put it out, you're like, we have an EP, and we're like, on April Fool's, this has got to be a joke, right? And have it be actually real. I don't know if we'll do that though.
One of my best April Fool's jokes that I've ever pulled, and this is never gonna top anything, but I switched my birthday on Facebook to April 1st, and not only was I gonna get like half the people that on my Facebook page, because who really keeps track of that, right?
Yeah, no.
So I got all those people. My grandmother tried to rat me out, but
Sorry, Grandma.
Sorry, it had to be done. But here's the best part of it. So my friends, two of my best friends at the time, I'll keep them unnamed for now. We had gone out for a previous friend's birthday, one of the two, and she was like, I can't believe some people that just don't know their people's actual birthdays, and they didn't say like my friends didn't say happy birthday to me once, and here we are out, and we went to what's that Philly restaurant? Ooh, what is it called? It's the restaurant where the waitresses are all classically trained and they sing to you like operas and stuff.
I have no idea.
It's really cool. I will have to
sing operas.
They sing like pieces of opera. All of them are classically trained.
That's amazing.
Waitresses, and they every like 30 minutes or so they go. they go and sing to you. It's I'm gonna I'll link it in the comments.
Link in the comments.
It's a great place. It's great food too. It's an Italian restaurant. And so we were there, and we were like, I can't believe people don't know that, what our birthdays are. They didn't say happy birthday to me and whatever. And so April comes around, and they were like, so what do you want? What are we gonna do for your birthday? And
Well,
and we decided to go to Boston for my birthday over spring break. And so here I am, like, we're going to Boston. This is great, but also it's not my birthday.
I got to tell you guys something.
Oh yeah, it was funny. Half the way there, and it becomes my birthday because
Yeah.
it's an overnight trip, and I was like, and they're singing happy birthday to me. I'm like, guys, April Fools, and they're
That's
like,
good.
no,
That's good.
they didn't believe me until I pulled out my ID card.
Corey Rose and everybody.
And they were mad at me the whole entire trip, but it was a
great.
great time. I had a ball.
That's a good April Fool's. Good for you.
It was. It's not like we went to Boston for my birthday. We just went to
Of course.
Boston,
And it happened to
just
be, oh, it's
my
Corey's birthday.
Yeah.
Like, oh, that'll be in,
Yeah,
nice.
and we had a great time. We wouldn't have gone to Boston otherwise.
Yeah.
And so
Yeah, you can. So if you're listening and you were involved with that trip, you have Corey to thank for a nice trip to Boston.
exactly.
Yeah.
We had a very nice trip. The toll roads were insane, but it was a very nice trip.
Yeah. Good. Well, I'm glad you had a good time.
All right, so back to telling your stories and your funny or maybe bad moments. What is
Yeah.
one that you have?
So there are a couple moments that are probably too bad to mention, but one comes to mind. I was playing a show with Justin. I think it was with Justin, an acoustic show. And I can't remember how, but somehow I like pretty badly cut my hand. I think it might have been like there was an era that I was going through where I was breaking strings a lot. I was restringing guitars like every show. Now that I've kind of gotten that situation resolved, but I think it may have been from a string. Like I pretty badly cut my hand. My really, really good friend of mine that I've known since I was young, Steven, was at the show. He was in the crowd kind of far away. And as I'm playing, I'm like trying to wave him down as I'm playing. Come here, come here, come here. He like runs up. He's like looking around at me, checking to see if what's going on. Is something wrong with my guitar? Is something wrong with my cable? I'm like, no, I'm bleeding like out of my one hand. And he has like a first aid kit with him pretty much at all times. And as I'm like trying to play through the songs, he's like trying to like sneak his hand in and like wrap me up so I don't so the song gets finished. And it did. That I would say is probably one of the worst and like kind of funniest moments that's ever happened to me that I'm allowed to say on this show.
I was going to say that sounds like a wild spectacle to be looking at.
Yeah, yeah.
What is going on here?
There were people that were like. Luckily, it wasn't a gig where people were paying very close attention to us. A lot of the acoustic gigs, a lot of the acoustic gigs, you're just doing your thing, and then if people pay attention, great. If not, whatever. Yeah, that's the only other thing that comes to mind that I'm able to speak about.
Speaking of things that you are allowed to speak about, you manage Tone Tailors. Tell me about that.
Yeah, so aside from playing music, the thing that I have always done to supplement that situation, which is not always financially the best, is to work in guitar stores. Like I've worked in like 5 or 6 guitar stores in my life. Unfortunately, the reason that there's such a turnover is because this day and age, it's very difficult to be a local small music shop with the advent of the internet.
Sweetwater and
not not knocking that, but
not the knocks. They have great products.
Yeah. But so a lot of the music stores I've worked at have closed, but over time I have gained a lot of experience in that particular niche of retail, music retail. Right, I've worked in tiny little stores and all the way to like big box stores, I had been a customer of Tone Tailors for a long time because if you live in this general area and you're serious about your guitar gear, that has always been the place to go to. From when they started on King Street in Lancaster in the small shop, all the way up to now in Rocklittits, which if you don't know about Rocklittits, look it up.
You know about it. You got to know about it.
Yeah. Tone Tailors is in Pod 2 of Rocklittits, Suite 54. If you come in on the main road, there's flags leading you up to it. It's not only is it a beautiful shop, aside from me working there, I can truly say it's a beautiful shop, but the selection of electric guitars, acoustic guitars, pedals, pro audio in this relatively local area and beyond, I really don't think that there's anything that compares to it. And that's because prior to me working there, I've always frequented as many guitar shops as I can. And that's always
Right.
been the best one. And it's currently better than it's ever been. So, anyway, to kind of get back on track, I just had noticed that they posted a job available. At that time, it was operations. So, like shipping and receiving, which they do a heck of a lot of.
Mhm.
You have to have some kind of online situation if you are going to be a small music shop in this day and age, so you can market to the world effectively, or at least the
Right.
country. So I applied, interviewed. They had known me a little just because I've shopped there and I bought a lot of stuff there in the past. Um, and they knew I had experience. At that time, I was working at another guitar store, and they gave me the job. I came on board. One thing leads to another, and at this point now, I'm the store manager. Happy to say, it's a great place to work. It's a great place to try out a guitar. There's if you play guitar, if you play bass, I have a hard time believing that you would walk into that shop and not see something that you needed to pick up. Genuinely, it's a great
Mm.
place, and I love working there. My bosses are great. My coworkers are great. And it's just awesome being around such great gear all the time. Aside from the fact that I'm working at Rock Lidditz, which has its own perks.
Exactly. I'm sure you've got to see some incredible, talented people walk in that
I
same
have,
trailers.
I have, yeah. Unfortunately, I really shouldn't say too
Okay, that's
much.
what I say.
But man, I wish, because there's some pretty good stories. I'll tell you off
Yeah,
air.
out there, yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, if you don't know about Rocklet, it's where it's a great place. Not only Mickey's Black Box is there, which is like
Mickey's Black Box. Yeah,
soon becoming one of the biggest hotspots in the
it's
area.
beautiful. Have you been there?
I have been
It's
there,
awesome.
and I don't think I've seen all that it can offer. Actually,
It's very cool. I have seen a show there, and I've played a show there.
Mm,
And whether you are there to see a show or you're there to play a show, it's
it's
equally
great.
excellent. I mean, it sounds incredible in there. As
It
you could
does.
imagine, it's all Claire Brothers sound stuff.
Yeah, that's where Claire's now based out of,
Yeah,
and
it's great.
Stray is based out of there too. I think. Right
Stray,
now.
yep, Claire, Stray, and Tate. It's
Tate,
the
yeah,
staging company.
yeah.
Mickey's Black Box. Mickey is
It's
Michael Tate.
Yep.
Yeah.
That's another target for the show.
Yeah,
But
very cool.
yes, indeed. So for those who want to start getting into guitar, what would you recommend?
Like for a guitar,
Mhm.
what guitar would I recommend? Well, one of the big qualifying factors is if you're looking to play guitar because you're already into music, what kind of music do you like to play?
Mm.
That's one of the first questions I'll usually ask a customer who has that same question, which is very often, as you can imagine. I would say that if you're looking for a guitar that can pretty much take you anywhere, which in my opinion is very important for your first guitar, because just like it was for me, as you grow with the instrument, your appreciation of music grows too. And you don't want to have an instrument that limits you stylistically to what kind of music you can play if you can help it. Now, I don't necessarily know if there's one guitar that does everything, but if there's something that's close, it would be something from Paul Reed Smith, PRS guitars, whether it's their overseas guitars or their American guitars, pound for pound, when it comes to quality, I'd say it's at least very hard to beat, if not impossible. I was just at their factory last week for a dealer situation that they were um, gracious enough to host, and we took a tour of the factory, got to hang out with Paul himself, and got to see the process of their quality control with the import guitars. Like they get quality controlled when they leave the factory in Indonesia. They get quality controlled again in Stevensville, Maryland, where they're based out of, before they are shipped out to their dealers. And every time that we pull one out of the bag, whether it's $500 or whether it's $4,000, they're perfect every time. We don't have to send it to the shop to get a set up or fix this or that, which is common with guitars. They're made out of wood. They move as they're shipped.
Right.
With PRS, never an issue. So if it's in the budget, I would say a PRS would be a starter guitar player's best choice. If not that, Squire makes some good offerings. Squire is a Fender's more affordable branch of company. They've really stepped it up in recent years, I'd say, and they've put a lot of not just great looking but great feeling guitars out there that pay homage to the classic electric guitar designs of the 50s, the Telecaster, the Stratocaster, and they do a good job preserving that name while offering something affordable to an intro guitar player. You could go that route too. I'm a big PRS guy though.
What's your favorite guitar?
That I own,
Favorite guitar?
my favorite guitar period ever.
Yeah.
Probably the Gibson Les Paul. Probably the Gibson Les Paul or the Fender Stratocaster. One of those two. I'd say a Les Paul. If you grow up loving rock music and you pick up a Les Paul and you play one, it's the sound that is ringing within your ears and your head is the sound that you've grown up loving and becoming addicted to as you fall in love with the instrument. Now, that being said, there are other companies that make their more modern, better appointed, better built version of that guitar that you can get the same feeling from. But my Les Paul is also my favorite guitar. There's just something about it that just makes me light up every time.
So, what is one thing that you know now that you wish you knew when you first started? By the way, these are all questions that I have for my guests. So, if you have any questions for Glenn, be sure to put them in the comments for sure. We'll get around to it. So, what is one of the things that you know now that you wish you knew when you first started?
I wish I knew how to separate myself emotionally from a project a little bit more. Like as you have this intense love affair with guitar and by proxy music, or maybe the other way around, for me at least, I tend to get super invested in a project, and that can sometimes be unhealthy, of course, depending on like the people in the project, which is a whole nother story, you know.
Yes.
But I wish I knew how to. I wish when I was younger, I knew how to better give all of myself to a project without becoming emotionally over invested. At the same time, though, um, me having a certain kind of heartbreak with certain musical situations is how I learned to be that way, you know, to not invest so much. I still
Right.
kind of do a little bit. Now, luckily, as I've said earlier, I'm surrounded by musicians that I really like, love and trust very, very much. I'm super lucky with as many people as I play with. I love them all and trust them all, which is rare in music, I think,
Right.
sadly.
Yeah.
But I wish when I was younger that I knew how to temper that balance a little bit more, and that I didn't have to learn it by having a bad situation. That is the way I learned it, and I'm grateful for that bad situation for teaching me that, but I wish I would have known that sooner. I guess.
No, it's always good to
Yeah.
know things outright instead of learning the hard way.
Yeah, like, you know, be at your band's rehearsals, be at your practices, be invested, care about the music, but don't overinvest yourself. That kind of ties in with the earlier point about burnout we were talking about. If you overinvest yourself past being in the room with the musicians, you can get a little burned out with a project, and it can sometimes become not so fun anymore.
Right.
So that would be something I wish I would have known sooner.
So, one of the last questions I want to ask: what's one of the best pieces of advice anyone has ever given you in terms of music?
About music,
Yeah.
this is going to be kind of a cliche answer. If you're a musician listening, this may be your answer as well. Just try to listen more. Like if you, and that ties into the earlier point about the collective headspace. If you are really listening while you're playing with a group of people, a lot of the questions you may have about what you should play and how you should play it will be answered if you're with a good group of musicians, or if you're with a group of musicians that has chemistry. And I don't think that there's been one person that's given me that advice. I think it's been a lot of people, and it's also just been something that I have realized over time. It's kind of always an open conversation with people I play music with, the listening thing. And I had a conversation with Justin recently about this a little bit. When you've gotten to a point musically where you are mature, to me, what that means is that the thinking has become the listening. Like in music, you want to almost always be listening rather than thinking, because in music, to me, listening is the thinking.
Right.
You know, like that, it takes the place of thinking. It's a form of thinking within that medium. That's the way I look at it. So, and I know that when you're still getting your chops under your fingers and you're still getting your confidence up, the whole listening thing seems like it's so far away, and it kind of is, because you do need to have a certain amount of confidence in your ability to open up and get in that collective headspace. But if you can just keep that point in mind, the listening and the connection between the people playing, rather than thinking about what you're doing so much, I think that you'll turn around one day and be like, you'll think to yourself that, wow, I've become a good listener and I didn't even realize it. So just keep that in mind.
And that also expands to like listening on your own as well to different genres and trying to catch what they're doing with their guitars and other genres.
Yeah.
And styles.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I think, yeah, if you're listening, you will be able to figure out what you need to do to suit the music, which everyone always says, play to the song, right? Like
Yeah,
that's
right.
the cool,
Service the
that's the
song.
cool thing to do. And I think that comes from listening.
Mhm.
If you do that enough, and if you know the song well enough, then you know how to slip into that without keeping that concept in the forefront of your mind so much. Like if you're a funk guitar player and you've been playing in funk bands in years and you've been listening to how you're playing in funk bands in years and you've been listening to the rhythm section you've been playing with for years, whether it's the same one or different ones, eventually you don't feel like you're making yourself listen so much. It's just second nature. But
Right.
if you're able to keep your ears open, it'll be easier for you to fit into new situations a little bit better too. You know, it's not going to be as much of a, for lack of a better term, like a culture shock
Right. Yeah.
to enter a new musical situation genre wise and not know what's going on. If you have your listening muscle tuned, it will expedite the process of finding your spot in that band a little bit more quickly, even if you're a little more unfamiliar with how to play the genre.
So we have a question, and I'm not sure if you would know the answer to, but can you recommend some Italian songs that have great tremolo picking sections?
Italian songs that have great tremolo picking. I would imagine a lot of them. Like
Yeah, I
a
was
lot
gonna
of
say,
traditional
yeah.
Italian music is like I think it's like some kind of mandolin that when you think of like that like a someone rowing you on like a gondola.
Yeah, yeah,
So I
yeah.
think it's like a mandolin tremolo picking. I don't really know any specific songs. I'm not Italian. Also, I wish I was. The food's great, but yeah, I really don't know. I'm trying to think of. Do I even know any Italian bands that come to the forefront of my mind in general? I don't think so.
I was gonna say, yeah, we're American specialized
Yeah,
in
right.
in our American genre, so
Italy's
I'm
got
not
the
sure.
food thing down. I will say a lot of the really shredder guitar players tend to be
They
Italian.
do.
John Petrucci, Steve Vai,
Yeah, right.
Joe Satriani. It's like there's something within the Italian blood. Maybe it comes from that tremolo picking thing that allows you to be a little bit more of a shredder if you play guitar. I don't know.
And they do
Interestingly
have
enough.
great music too.
Yeah, of course. I mean,
Even their classical stuff is fantastic.
yeah. Well, and they got the singing thing too.
They do. They really do.
Like they've got the singing thing aside from, you had mentioned like the waitresses at the restaurant, but also Frankie Valli and the Four Seasons and Dean Martin and all that kind of old school 50s early 60s kind of classic singer singing. Frank Sinatra, Italian guys,
guy. Yep.
so
where can people find you in all your projects?
people can find me on Instagram at Glenn Plays Guitar, at Bad Slice Band, which is an excellent, incredible band that I'm in that's really getting the ball rolling and has a bunch of dates coming this year. One of the best groups of musicians I've ever played with. You can also find us on Facebook, Bad Slice, a couple really great musicians in that band. You can find Stephanie G Music on Instagram. I play with Stephanie Grace and her band. The Quiet Campaign is at the Quiet Campaign on Instagram. There are a couple projects I think I'm in that might not have Instagram. We got to get on that. New Pretzel City Ramblers. I play bass with them every now and then. You can find them on Facebook. You can find the Quiet Campaign and Stephanie Grace on Facebook. Justin and Glenn, which is an acoustic duo of myself and Justin Fava. You can find us on Facebook. I think that's it.
There you go.
That's where you can find me. Or at Tone Tailors.
Tuesday
Tuesday through Saturday, I'll be working. You can find me there.
And that's all on Facebook, Instagram, and everywhere else as well.
Yeah.
And tonetailors.com.
Tonetailors.com, at Tone Tailors on Instagram, Tone Tailors on Facebook. If you see anything cool that you like on our website, call us, and we'd love to make something happen.
Support local.
Yes.
Shops.
Support the local shop.
Absolutely. It helps us all.
It does.
So my name is Corey Rosen. This has been The Story Podcast. You can find more about me and the stuff that I do at CoreyRosenProductions.com. That's CORYROSEN Productions.com. You can find my personal projects. You can find all past 141 episodes of incredible guests that include some of your bandmates.
Yes.
And a lot of other cool people too, like some members of Snarky Puppy, Daryl Davis, and all other cool, really cool people. Upcoming tomorrow, I have Eric Worsing, who is the lead guitarist of Solar Federation, a Rush tribute band in the area. Incredible dude, and their band is also incredible.
Yeah, they play at Mickey's Black Box quite a bit.
They do, and so I'm excited to hear about that project. This Friday, well, Thursday is the Central Pennsylvania Music Awards, so please be sure to get your tickets. They are short in supply.
You're nominated, right?
I am nominated. I am nominated for Best Music Podcast in the area.
As you should be.
As it should be. Along with Dark with Daniel and I forget the other one. It's something with Nate. They're gonna crucify me for that. But there are other great podcasts in the area. Dark with Daniel actually now runs the Central Pennsylvania Music Podcast as well, I do believe. Yeah.
Cool.
And yeah, so it's gonna be a great night of great networking, great music. There's a pre-party and after party. I know the after party is at the Englewood. I don't know where the pre-game party is, but you can find me at both. I'll be wearing this attire or something similar to the show, so be sure to go out to that. This Friday, I'm going to be having Stephen Courtney returning. He is a local child singer-songwriter, and he has not that he is a child.
Yeah, I was going to say. He's a local child.
He's a local child. Well, I have had kids on like Noah Gibney, and
you've had Noah.
Yeah, I've had Noah
cool.
Gibney.
Yeah,
I'm looking to get Addie Grace on here as well.
Cool.
Because they're talented musicians in this area, and Alex Warner as well.
Yeah.
Definitely planning to have them on the show. Cool. But this guy is not a child. He is a relatively old man. Who writes children's music.
He's the opposite of a child.
Opposite of a child, but he writes songs like the children like, and he's got 5 songs on Sesame Street. They have to be that good, to be on Sesame Street at least. So we get to continue his story, and then I forget my schedule because I don't have my phone. So
there's just too many guests. You can't keep track of them all.
Yeah,
that's great.
Yeah, if you want to find out more about that, go to CoreyRosenProductions.com. Find out all of my socials there. And with all that said, I hope you guys have a wonderful rest of your day. And well, actually, no, I have a few more things to plug. We are starting the Songwriter Studio here. It's where I'm getting 3 to 4 musicians all in this area, and within an hour, we got to crank out a song.
Wow, that's cool.
Not a fully produced one, just a song that we can go and fully produce.
What a great idea. Was that your idea?
It was my idea. Yeah, cool. And so we also do single and album reviews here. So if you want to submit your singles or albums, you can go over to Corey Rosen Productions, and that's under /podcast. You can find all of that there under the services we provide. And if you want to sign up to the Songwriter Studio, you can do that through the website, or you can just message me personally at Corey Rosen, or through the story at Facebook, Instagram, or just comment it right here and I'll just send you a form. And if you want to be a part of that, that'd be awesome, because I really wanted to get some more collaboration with the amazing talent that we have here in the Central PA region.
I'll send you the TQC EP. Well, you have it, but like if you want to officially assess that,
absolutely.
Let me know what you think.
Well, with all that said, I hope you guys have a wonderful rest today, and we will see you guys later. Bye.